Hi, this is KY here. I'm running a podcast that centers on science, health, education, and entrepreneurship, as well as spirituality. And I'll have guests on board my podcast from time to time. And today we have Hui Kee here with us. I'll make a short introduction of Hui Kee. Hui Kee is my primary school friend. And she has a very extensively long CV, so pardon, I take a peek here. Okay, so Hui Kee attained her bachelor's degree in classical music in 2008, majoring in piano, and she has a minor in classical voice. She achieved her ATCL diploma certificate for piano solo performance by the Trinity Guildhall Examination Board in 2006. In 2010, she attained the Grade 7 Classical Vocals with Merit by the Trinity Guildhall Examination Board. In 2011, she received certification and leadership in an American music education program called Music Mind Games. And in 2019, she became a Waldorf music teacher. That's her education background. In terms of her career, she actually did a musical production, and she directed, produced, and written the script for Fantastic Disney the Musical. And she raised RM 10,000 for the Beautiful Gate Foundation for the Disabled. She started her own music school in 2010 and sold it off in 2015. There's a nice story behind this. We'll ask her later. And she also, thereafter, she started her home-based music studio called Staccato Music Room. And as mentioned previously, she joined the KL Steiner School, which is a Waldorf school, in 2019. Whew, okay, I think I need to take a breath. That's a very long CV.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for having me, by the way.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah,
my
it's
pleasure.
a very exciting thing to be here.
You may be wondering that how I knew Hui Kee. So we are both from Muar, Johor, Malaysia, and she's my primary schoolmate. I think we spent 1 year as classmates in primary 6. Yeah, in 6K.
No, more than 1 year, I think.
Primary 5, I'm at 5J, so I think it's different classes. I only joined you in
is it?
6K, I think.
Oh,
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, I
That
thought more
is-
than 1 year.
Yeah, that's
I
probably
see.
a lifetime ago. That's 1998 for reference. Yeah, very,
Yeah.
very long time ago. Now we are parents already, and my child is in primary school, and so is yours, right? Yeah. So
Oh, not yet.
not yet.
Mine next year.
Next year. Yeah. So I have 2 kids,
Yes.
and Hui Kee has 2 kids as well. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Next, probably because Hui Kee is currently teaching in a Waldorf school, then yeah, would you want to tell how you ended up as a Waldorf parent and then as a Waldorf teacher, and then I'll follow with my story.
Oh, wow. That is going to be very long. You sure you want to go there?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start with the parent first. I mean, the parenting. Okay, let me think. It kind of intertwined with each other because that time I actually run a music school. So, I was very young. I started about 23 years old, my school. So, about 22 or 23. And I had this vision, like when you're young, you always have that kind of vision, right? You want to make this music a thing for children to enjoy and things like that. But it turns out it's not really what I've imagined it to be. So I felt very burnt out and exhausted, even though the business was actually quite well. But I couldn't feel, the inside, the inner part of myself is actually dying.
Oh.
Because I feel that I have to debate with parents on a daily basis why you need to let your children learn music. Not to say why, because they know why. The thing is they cannot just work together. It's like a three-piece, what do you call it, that saloon thing? What do you call that? Saloon? That gear that they're
gear
supposed to... Yeah, you're supposed to work together like the children, parents and teachers. But most of the time teachers are the one that is working with the children that is miserable the whole time.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think it's quite common for a lot of parents to experience this, or you even hear stories that they give up in certain grades and things like that. So to me, I find it's a very bizarre thing for me because I don't feel that growing up learning music. And I think this is how I start to venture out. I want to learn more. I want to see what is it, because I love to teach creatively. Because I don't really like to be binded in a book, like I cannot feel it. You need to really organically take in whatever you need to teach, and then only you can present it out to the kids. That's what I believe. And so I started searching. That time I wasn't pregnant yet. I was in the verge of, the uncertainty in my career and things like that. And then just one day, out of the blue, one of my aunts, who is actually very into spirituality, things like that, she did a lot of meditations, and her spiritual journey started very, very early in her early life. So she came across Waldorf education, and then that time I actually pregnant, and I think I gave birth already. My kid was very, very young. He was about 2-3 months. So she came to me, and then she said, "Oh, I discovered this very interesting thing." And then she told me about it. I'm like, "Got such thing, man?" Realistically, how can it be so? It sounded very hard to be true.
How did she describe it to you?
Oh yeah, she was saying, there's this education system where the kids are nurtured very creatively. They don't go by the book, and then they will learn, and then they'll grow up as a very different personality. It's a very holistic kind of education system. And to me, that time I'm like, but it's not possible. It's like, we are in a modern world now. How can we have this such thing and things like that? And then she was like, "Yeah, never mind, just come, just go and attend this workshop with me." Because just so happened because there's a yearly a lot of trainings to be honest, every few months. So just so happened that there's one pretty big one for the Waldorf teacher training. So you can actually just sit in for fun lah.
Oh.
So that's what I did. Yeah, and then I sat in. I remember that was back in 2018, early 2018. So I sat in and I'm like, what is this? I was mind blown, to be honest. And then I'm like, wow, so many things I've never even heard of in my whole entire life. And then it just, I think it's the curiosity. And then I sort of thought that, okay, I want to see how true this can be put it into a reality world. So I thought before I let my children step into this, because this is a really big commitment, I will become a teacher first, just to see what is inside. And you get what I mean? Like before you start a business or something like that, you have to work inside and see how the managing works and everything, right?
Yes.
So that's actually my initial thoughts. So ever since I started, I got hooked lah. I boarded a boat that never turned back.
I see.
Yeah, and that's the kind of a short introduction. Yeah, for me as a teacher and then as a parent as well. Yeah. How about you? Actually, I'm actually quite curious as well. I don't think I've never heard your story.
Okay. Just now Hui Kee shared a lot, so I think there are a few questions. Is that you probably want to hear more about her stint in the the traditional music scene, and then she mentioned something about high dropout rates and why parents, are not in sync with the teacher and the student, and we'll probably hear more about that. So for me, my wife Hui, I think it was 2016. That time, I think we were expecting our firstborn, and then she was looking into education philosophies, and then I think it was some centennial celebration of Waldorf around that time, so there was a documentary, and then she first watched it, she felt emotional after watching it, and then she shared it to me, and then I also felt that, wow, this kind of fits I think we are still developing our outlook and then developing our thoughts and values around education at the time. But if I recall correctly, what attracted me was that the education system is, not to say play-based, but there's a lot of time in nature, which is something I value a lot. I spent a lot of my childhood in nature, in the fields, running around with a kite, fishing my brother, venturing into forests, waterfalls, learning, and I spent a lot of time outdoors. And this is something I wanted to provide to my children. The other thing is, in my education system as well, when I was in university, UKM, National University of Malaysia, it was, I think, one of the pioneers in Malaysia in terms of the medical curriculum, where it's integrated. We call it an integrated system, meaning that traditionally people will go through semesters of maybe physiology, then another semester in pharmacology, another semester in maybe pharmacodynamics, and then it's all very separated. But in the integrated curriculum, you have a problem-based approach where this patient presents with this particular problem, and then we go down into symptomology, and then we go into what is physiology, pathophysiology, and then we integrate it with pharmacology and treatment option, surgery approaches, and it makes a very complete picture, and we do not learn things in isolation compared to other methods. So in Waldorf, whether it's maths, it's music, art, okay, for others who are not familiar, in Waldorf, I think before grade 1, so before the age of 7, they do not start writing, they do not count. So, but once into grade school, most things, life skills, most things are integrated and taught in a very harmonious fashion. For example, they do not teach maths 1 plus 2, but let's say the activity today is about constructing a dwelling, then that's where maths comes in. They'll probably teach them how to count using handspans, or how does the measurement of foot came about, and then it integrates that into structure, modeling, everything in one. And that this kind of integrated concept feels very alive and dynamic kind of teaching method. And I'm a kinesthetic learner, and I learn by doing. So this method applies to me, and I think it's also very intuitive, unlike those that is very structured and very fun. Well, that's my journey in how we became Waldorf parents. Although I would say we try, and due to logistical reasons, we only managed to get our kids into a Waldorf kindergarten in 2022. We managed to do that after having the idea since 2016. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That long?
Yes, that long.
Why?
Yeah. One is because I'm currently in Singapore, and in Singapore, the Waldorf school is located in one area.
Okay.
And then because of work, I'm located in a separate area. But we moved mountains because I think my kids were in the traditional kindergarten, but the teachers were all very KPI driven. And the questions that we wanted to know, like how is my kid's socialization, how is his emotional, expression or things like that, the teacher didn't know how to answer. It just went on to talk about checklists.
Yes.
Or you need to learn about his phonics, whatever he needs extra, his maths needs extra one, his Chinese needs extra one.
Yes.
But the things that we are concerned about, like how his personal development as a human being, how does he interact with other people, it's not what they pay attention to, it's not what they care about. And then after 1 or 2 parent-teacher meetings, right, my wife got more and more disillusioned, and me also. Then we said that, okay, that's it. We're going to pull him out. I'm going to plunge him in the Waldorf school by hook or by crook. And then we had to manage a lot of things because it was after the pandemic. We lost our helper, and then a lot of things. But we managed to make it happen, and we were happy with the result. Yep.
Very good.
Yes.
Yes, I'm very happy for you too.
Yeah. Sorry for the very long story.
No, it's okay. It's very interesting. Actually, you brought out a lot of very interesting points. I forgot to mention something very, very, very important that actually captured me at first when I heard about this. I think Waldorf education is so far the only education that I've known that actually takes care of the development of the children from academic, physical, to even the spiritual level. So this is the only education system that designed specially according to the development of the children. And that is the only thing I need to convince me to put my son into a Waldorf school. That's it. Because for me, emotional growth is priority. For me, it's always the priority, because this is something that you cannot actually learn from a book. It's actually all from your surrounding, your everything, your caretaker, your nurture, everyone that is around you is the one that is going to shape you. So this is the biggest yes for me. And of course, after that, I learned about all the the fourfold human, and of course the 3-way children learning. A lot of little things that you learn in the Waldorf education. How they teach, and how like what you said just now, what you mentioned about it is everything is very alive. Like for me, I can finally breathe in my teaching. It's not like something that they give you a manual and then okay, just follow whatever that is written there. No, everything is very alive, which is why it makes so much sense for us as a teacher as well. And of course, as a parent, I think it helped me a lot in my parenting. I know what to do with my kids, because I know that a lot of parents, especially new ones, that I don't know what to do with the kids. I don't know what is the best way to nurture them and things like that, because I finally have like a guide. And for me, it's pretty it's very humane, very holistic way.
Holistic,
So
yeah. I was thinking of that word
that's the
also.
word, yes. Yes, it's that's the only thing. If you're thinking about holistic way, that I cannot find the other education system that can actually go with this. Yeah.
Here I'll try to
Yeah.
like define what Waldorf education is, and then I think Hui Kee will correct me where I'm wrong. So Waldorf is started off by, it's based on a philosophy by Rudolf Steiner. So he is it German, Austrian German historical figure in the early 1900s, and then there was it a factory that wanted to organize education for the factory workers' children. And then they found Rudolf Steiner, and then he is also the founder of anthroposophy, which is the study of how a human being develops. And he incorporates his philosophy and his understanding about child and human development into the education system. And right now, I think Waldorf is found worldwide. The largest expansion of schools right now, I think, is in China, if not mistaken. Anything you'd like to add to that?
I'm not really very clear about the history. I know, like, of course, from the workshops and everything that I've attended, that's what I've heard. Yeah, I know he's worldwide. They just celebrated their 100th anniversary last year, actually. Yeah, last year or last 2 years, I think. Yeah, they just celebrated their 100th anniversary. So it's already going on for 100 over years, something that is like, so, but this is not an education that everyone can accept, I would say. Because, like, I just share very briefly when I tell, even my own mom, even until now, she will sometimes give some comment because they are worried, you know, because if you really want to be a Waldorf parent, you need to be very sure what you want in your kid. Because that is what, I think for us as parents, that is what we are doing, right? We are choosing what we think is the best for kids.
Yes.
So, like what when you explained just now, kindergarten years, there's no reading, no writing, no counting, no anything that you know that kids will do in normal kindergarten. They don't do at all. My kids play in the mud, jump, you know, my school we are very lucky. We are actually the first forest school in Malaysia. Yeah, it's like a real forest school. So my kid hike, you know, every day. They play in the pond, they play in the sand. You know, that's what they do. But everything that they do is with a purpose. It's not because, okay, I want to stop them from doing this because sajalah, I want to do this. But it's not. Yeah, because, I just want to talk about maybe I can talk about how children learn. You know, the one that we talked about before this, the hands, the feeling, the willing, and the thinking.
Sure.
Yeah, this is the whole idea why they actually want to do that. They actually design the curriculum that way. So the children 0 to 7, they focus on the willing part. Willing means your hands. You know, your willpower. That's what we are actually training them to have, because that's where their life force is strongest. You know, I talk about life force later. That's a fourfold human. Actually, I'm not really an expert in this, but I'm just sharing whatever that I've learned over the years.
Yes.
Yeah, because this is something that I think you need to learn lifelong, because it's a knowledge that is never ending. It's so deep. There's so much to learn. So for 0 to 7, they focus on the willing part, which is why they do a lot of handcraft. Like my kid, he do a lot of finger knitting. I'm sure your kid too, lah.
Yes.
Because Waldorf kids. Even the mom, like for me, I just finished my son's graduation book. Because for the kindy children, when they are graduating, they need to do a felt star, and then a drawstring bag.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is like a journey for the kid to graduate from the kindergarten and go to primary school. So the kindergarten part, what they do, they are just focusing on routine. That is the most important thing, because routine actually shapes a person's habit, which is why, you know, like nowadays a lot of children, they are, what's the word for it? You know, they just look at their phone the whole day without, you know,
disengaged and then antisocial.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like physically they are not disabled, but they look like a disabled person. You know, like 肢体瘫痪, 心灵瘫痪, 不是肢体瘫痪, 心灵瘫痪. Yeah, that's what we call, because this is actually one of the most critical issue that the society is facing now, because a lot of children, they are not willing to do anything anymore. They might have very good ideas, they have like a lot of things that have in mind, but it's all trapped here because they cannot connect and transfer it to their hands and limbs to actually do it. So from young, we focus on their willing phase. It's because they have to connect with their physical touches, the senses, you know, the hand-eye coordination and all the things that you have heard, like from the infant stages. It actually drags out all the way to when they are even in primary. So these are the things that we want the life force to focus on. So imagine if you ask a kid to write, let's say, it's not that writing is not good. First of all, I've read like you are the doctor, I'm sure you know, because they are not developed yet, their bones and everything to actually hold a pencil for a very long time. Because sometimes I can see some of the kids, they actually do math, they do I think writing just by copying all the things that they've written. So imagine you have a kid sitting on the table to write for 30 minutes, comparing that to a kid spending a 30-minute outdoor. You know, the kind of experience, the thing they look and see and smell, compared that to that, it's actually a very big difference. So for little children, it's all about experience. So if you take that away during that 0 to 7, like the age gap, so it's something that will be missing when as they grow, you know, something that you cannot take it back anymore. So for learning, like my friend and even my mom's like, aren't you worried that he will be left behind, you know, 输在起跑线?
Yes, a lot of parents will say that.
Yes, but then I will be asking them back, what is your meaning of 起跑线? What is the starting point for you? But for me, it's not about writing, it's not about talking and all, because I'm sure my kid, unless, we're not talking about special cases lah. Maybe for normal healthy kid, I'm very sure they can learn, right? I mean, I'm very sure they can learn how to read, how to calculate and everything. So for me, the real 起跑线, the starting point of life actually starts at 18 years old. That is when they step into society. If they're still not sure about themselves, they're still not sure who they are as the person, that is where they are going to spend a lot of years fiddling, you know, falling down, don't know what to do.
Directionless.
Yes, that is even more of, you know, a waste of time.
Yes.
You know, if you are talking about I mean, if you want to compare, because for me, I'm hoping that my kid, when they are graduated from whatever that they have learned in the school, they are very sure what they want. Be it he wants to be a YouTuber, so be it, just go for it, because I'm very sure he knows exactly what he needs to do in order to achieve that kind of thing that he wants. He already very sure. If you want to be a racer, you want to be a rock climber, you just go ahead. You got what I mean, right? So I think that is actually what I, as a parent, I think most of the Waldorf parents have the similar thinking, which is why we risk our kid to be put into a system like this. So but eventually the destination that our kid will end up is actually the same as every other kid in the world, because they will still be taking GCSE, they can still be taking A levels and things like that. No, it's just the route and the direction that we take is totally different, but the destination is the same. It's just a whole different experience. If you are sure of that, I think.
There's a lot to unpack there, but a few things is maybe you can subsequently you can talk about the head, the heart, and the hands, and then so in terms of the development of a child and the education journey, there are many education styles. There is homeschooling, unschooling, self-directed learning. There is a concept, something called like a Sudbury school in the US, where the children mix of different ages mix together, and children, they are innately curious, and the thing that me and my wife, we are most afraid of is when the curiosity and the interest of learning is educated out of them in a traditional education system where so much rote learning, so much spoon feeding, so much, you know, tests, and how to say, you are forced to learn things that you are, it's not alive, it's we call it 死背书 or whatever.
Relate to,
and then I've read across that why many parents choose alternative education systems is they use this phrase to describe is when they notice the light went out in their children's eyes, when they like lose the not will to live, but then
they are dead.
Yeah, they're like soulless or dead inside, and then the parents said that, no, we can't do this anymore. We need to like transplant him somewhere where he can be alive again. And that is one of the driving things behind why parents choose alternative education, even if it's
We
not
actually
Waldorf.
have a few. Yeah, we actually have a few students that it's exactly what you have mentioned.